Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube video. In this video I'm going to show you how to drive the Class 68 in Train Simulator. Before we get started, let me make myself a nice cup of tea. See you later. So let's get started. Firstly, let me close this window and unlock the doors to let passengers board. Firstly, let me tell you something about this locomotive. This is the British Rail Class 68, hauling Mark II coaches. We don't care about coaches, let's have a look at the locomotive. It's got two bogies, each has two axles, and each axle is driven by one electric motor. This locomotive has a Caterpillar engine. Oh, by the way, it was built by Vossloh Espana or Stadler Rail. The engine is a Caterpillar something, which is a 16-cylinder high-speed 4-stroke diesel engine, and the electrical system is in alternating current provided by ABB. And I'm going to restart this scenario in a bit, and let me just talk you through the controls. That's a wiper. Obviously we want it on, and I'm setting it to interval, so it just does it occasionally. And I may set it to keep running. And that's your reverser. Obviously you want it in forward, and dismiss AWS. So let me put it in neutral and show you this is the power handle. If you pull it towards you, you've got A levels of power or idle, or you can press A to increase the power or press D to decrease it. And if you push it away from you, that engages what is it called? Rheostatic brake. Yes, that's what it is. And when you're applying power, that shows you what notch you're on. In terms of what notch you put the handle in, and that just shows you the engine speed. It goes from 600 RPM up to 1000 something, because it's a high speed. Can't remember. And that shows attractive force. Blue is when you're applying power, and red is when you're applying rheostatic brake. Now notice that if you use the automatic brake, the rheostatic brake comes on automatically. And also when you apply rheostatic brake only, it may not come on immediately. It turns on the fan, and then after a short moment the rheostatic brake comes on. So what you might want to do is that you might want to apply a bit of rheostatic brake and let it come on first, and then apply more rheostatic brake, so that otherwise it may jerk. Now let's have a look at the brake handle. That's a direct brake control which you will never use. That's a brake handle. Now currently it's on hold position, which should point at 0, but the game is a bit dizzy, so it's not pointing exactly at 0, but you can see here, if you use a keyboard, use a semicolon and a single quotation mark, the semicolon releases, and well, it moves the handle towards you, and the single quotation mark pushes it away from you, and when it's at 0, that handle, let me just clarify, that handle, it does not directly control how much brake you apply. It's not like when you're in release, it just releases the brake. That's your brake gauge, brake cylinder. So 5 is completely released, the unit is in bars. Currently at somewhere over here, which is 3.4 something, 3.3 to 3.4, somewhere between there. That's full service, and when it comes to 0, it's emergency, or anywhere in this range. Actually, not quite, but whatever. You normally can't go beyond full service unless you go in emergency when you're moving. So this is how much air pressure is in your brake cylinder. The air holds the brake off, not on. So when you've got a lot of air, it's very off, or when it's pointing at 5, it's completely off. Now if you put it in hold position, that gauge doesn't change. If you pull the handle towards you, it goes into release. The yellow one is what you wanted to set to, the red one is what it's actually at. And notice that if you pull it towards you and you let it go, it goes back to the hold position. But if you put it to apply and you let it go, it doesn't go back to the hold position, so you have to pull it towards you to put it back to the hold position. And if you just be careful when you're in apply, and then if you push it a bit further, it's really to go into emergency brake, which is not what you want. And then you have to wait for your train to come to a complete stop, and then you have to wait for it to release the brake. If you're below full service and then you pull it to release, and when it kicks back to hold, it will automatically releases it to back to full service, like as I demonstrated. Now it's below full service, and then pull it to release it and put it back to hold. It keeps releasing until it gets to full service. That's a speedometer, and there's a digital one correct to 1 mile per hour. What other controls are there? That's light. It may be easier to see from here. You will want to put it there because you want your headlamps on, and the bottom semicircle is what the other end of the locomotive is on, and you don't want the other end to be on at all because you're hauling coaches. Now that's your head, and if you put the reverser in forward, it shows you forward. And your fuel level in this game, you've got infinite fuel. So what else are there? Oh, by the way, the radio doesn't work. That thing doesn't work. So you don't need to worry about that. Now let me restart the game too, because I've wasted time explaining stuff. Right, hello viewers. Right, now let me just show you a little bit of how to drive this thing, as demonstrate driving. Now I've just let the passengers get on, and set the lights to there, and the wiper to there. Now notice that if you use V on your, let me just check the lights. If you use V on your keyboard, it just changes between the fastest and 0. I can't do the 2 in between, so. And let me press I to. It's twisting that button, which turns on these lights, and press L to do the cap lights. And right now we're ready to go. Let me release my brake. And apply power. Hang on. Neutral. Right, now let's go. I'm just gonna drive one station because this video is intended to show you how to drive this thing. Beware that this is an amber signal, so the next one is gonna be red. So obviously don't just get too excited and go over it. You can hear the electric motor sound. and the engine sound coming. I'm eating Swedish fish, by the way. It's rather nice. By the way, I've got my Swedish fish from IKEA and they're rather nice. And this video is definitely not sponsored by IKEA. You can find them in the Swedish food market from IKEA. Now the sanding button is X, or you can press start button. You can notice that the rheostatic brake does come on when you're applying just a normal brake. Right, so let me just stop here because this is not going video, it's just a brief tutorial on how to drive the Class 68. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Good night.